shoe. Who else could it be but your man Lou? Yeah.
And overtime.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to Monday Night Football Overtime. Chargers, Chiefs, AFC West, family business, and you know how the family do it. Over in Mexico City, no less. My thing is, if you're going to play over there in Mexico City, can we get the field conditions a little bit better than remember last year? They couldn't even play there because the conditions on the field weren't good enough. So they had to move the game back to Los Angeles and play the game at L.A. at the Coliseum. We can't get the field conditions better. Guys slipping all over the place, divots and chunks of the grass coming up. We had similar issues over in London early on in the process. We can't get this field a little bit better. That being said, pretty good game. Much of what we come to expect from the Chargers this season, and I predicted this before the season started, that's what this team was going to be, because that's what this team always is. Last year, as I mentioned before the season started, was an aberration. Everything went right for them. That's how they ended up being 12-4. Everything, and when I say everything, everything went right for them last season. All the balls bounced in their favor. All the close games went their way. That's generally not what happens to the Chargers. Generally speaking, this is what happens to the Chargers. They lose close ball games, and they get close, and Phillip Rivers throws a back-breaking pick at the very end. That's generally what happens. Phillip giveth, and Phillip giveth to the other team. 4 picks. And keep in mind, we watched this same Chargers team last week on Thursday, and he threw 3 picks. So that's 7 in 2 weeks. I'm going to go on a limb and say that Phillip Rivers is going to throw 20 picks this season. And I don't know how many he had prior to these last 2 weeks. But there are more interceptions to come if you know Phillip Rivers like I know Phillip Rivers. So I'm going to say he's going to have one of those Eli Manning type seasons. You remember that season Eli Manning threw like 21 picks? And everybody's like, what the hell is going on? I think we're going to get one of those from Phillip Rivers this year. That's 7 in 2 weeks. I venture to say he probably had already thrown 4 or 5 prior to the 7 in the last 2 weeks. So I'm anxious. You know what? I'm actually really anxious to find out now. So I'm going to look up Phillip Rivers' stats for the season, because I want to know how many picks he's thrown this season. Because remember, maybe me saying that he's going to throw 20 isn't that big of a deal. He's got 10. So he's halfway there. I don't know. He might not get to 20. I take that back. He needed to be at like 12 right now. Because he's not going to keep throwing picks. You know, he's not going to throw 7 in a 2-game stretch again the remainder of the season. That's not going to happen. And now that they're out of it, I don't know if he's going to throw as many picks. So I take that back. Anyway, that was an odd game. Tyreek Hill gets hurt early. Then Damian Williams gets hurt. Then Shady McCoy gets hurt. And you know what I've realized with the Chiefs this season is when they get hurt, they really get hurt. I remember it was a game earlier this season. I don't know if it was the Packers game or if it was a game before that. I want to say it was a primetime game, though, but I can't remember. But they had a bunch of players get hurt in that game, like Frank Clark and Chris Jones. And, I mean, it was like a mass unit. It was like 6 or 7 dudes went down in that game. And I'm like, Jesus, are you serious right now? I think they had another one of those nights tonight where it just seemed like guy after guy after guy after guy. Austin Ryder went down. You had, as I mentioned, Tyreek Hill go down. You had Shady McCoy and Damian Williams both go down. I may be missing a guy or two in there, but those are the four that I remember from this game. But remember when they drafted Mecole Hardman and we were saying you don't know what's going to happen with Tyreek Hill, and so this is your insurance policy. Man, is that a damn good insurance policy to have? Because even though he didn't have a major impact tonight per se, it's just the fact of still having the capability to have all of the routes that you came into the game ready to run, still available and at your disposal. That guy is so fast and he's such a game changer that, in the past when Tyreek Hill would get injured or if anything happened to him, you were really stuck because you didn't have another guy that could replicate what he brings to the table. And now you do. And so that was a good get for them. That was a really smart move on their part. And you know what else I noticed tonight? This is the most I've ever seen Patrick Mahomes run, and I might be tripping, and he may have run plenty more in other games that I just don't remember, but I can't recall him scrambling as much for as many yards as he did tonight. He was on the move, and it seemed like he was on the move quite a bit. He did a really good job of using his legs in this football game to extend plays, as he always does, but more importantly, to pick up first downs and to keep the clock running. And I thought he did some really good things with his legs tonight. 60 yards rushing on 4 attempts. Thought he used his legs magnificently. And that throw to Travis Kelce for the touchdown, that's a thing of beauty, man. There were some really good plays in this game by both teams. That pick by Rayshon Jenkins early in the game to pick off Mahomes, that was a beautiful pick. Same thing can be said about the Tyrann Mathieu pick of Phillip Rivers that got them the scoring going for the Chiefs, because up until that point, they were pretty stagnant offensively. And I've seen this game from the Chargers so many times where they dominate a half of football and they look up and either they're losing or they only got like a 2-point lead to show for all of their efforts. And for as dominant of a first half as that was, because let's call a spade, they absolutely dominated the first half. 311 total yards of offense. They probably tripled the amount of plays that the Chiefs had in the first half. That's how dominant they were. They went up and down the field, it seemed like at will, and yet they only had 9 points to show for their first half. It was ridiculous. Missed a field goal. 2 Phillip Rivers interceptions. One when he got hit, could have easily been a fumble instead, but it ended up going right to Derek Nottie and he picked it off. So they credited it with an interception, but at the end of the day, it was still going to be a turnover, whether it was a fumble or an interception. They threw another interception. That was the backbreaker there, the one to Tyrann Mathieu, because that one put the Chiefs in prime scoring position, and they would do exactly that on the very next play on a Shady McCoy touchdown run. And then, just too many mistakes in that first half to put yourself in a position to take advantage of what you had done, which was dominate. And you should have had 20 points in that first half instead of just 9. And you should have been up by a 2-score lead instead of being down by 1 point. Like, there was no reason for the Chargers to be trailing at the halftime break. But you miss a field goal, you throw 2 interceptions, and you make the kind of mistakes that they made in that first half. And unfortunately, for all that you've done, and they had some really good field position, the Chargers. They had some opportunities. They moved the football and they weren't able to take advantage. So that's frustrating. It really is. If you're a Chargers fan, you should be accustomed to that. You should be used to it. But it never gets any easier to stomach when you watch it happen. But if you're the Chiefs, better defensive performance, even though you still gave some things up, including a 50-yard pass late when you know they're desperate and they want to go deep. That's a bad time to give that up. But you made plays. You forced turnovers. You had opportunities for other turnovers. The Chargers tried to give it away on special teams a couple of times. But all in all, when plays had to be made, you made them. Simple as that. You got stops. You forced turnovers. And what has been one of the biggest deficiencies on this team is making leads stick. You know, it's amazing that the Chiefs were able to score 24 and that was enough. On most nights for the Chiefs, 24 ain't enough. You know, it seems like on prime time in this particular spot or in any spot prime time wise, because they played on a Thursday night and they destroyed the Broncos, and I think the Broncos might have scored 3 or 6 or 10 points or something like that. But it's rare that 17 points is all the defense gives up. You know, normally it's a shootout. And if you're the Chiefs, you probably need to score every bit of 35, 38 to make sure that you win the football game. 17 points, you force 4 turnovers. You'd like to hope that 17 is all you give up, but we've seen this Chiefs defense do some extraordinarily bad things. So I wouldn't put anything past them, but that was actually a solid defensive performance, especially after the rough first half you had, giving up all those yards. And you made some adjustments, and some of those adjustments were, hey, offense, just stay on the field a little bit more. And they were able to do that. So nice win for the Chiefs. They still don't feel like the Chiefs to me, though. You know, like, in this league, though, you need to do whatever it is you need to do to win. You know, it doesn't always have to look pretty. You know, it's not always going to be the shiniest, prettiest victory in the world. But as long as you're stacking up those bricks in the left-hand corner, that's all that matters. You know, and take that dub, put it in that left-hand column, and keep it moving. You stay atop the AFC West with this win at 7-4. And now you go on to that bye week. And you're going to have a massive game when you come off the bye against the Raiders. This time at home, at Arrowhead. And that pretty much, I think, will decide the division. You win that game, whether the Raiders beat the Jets next week or not, and that's not going to be a pushover. Jets are playing with much more confidence right now. Whether they win that game or not, and come into that game with a virtual tie at 7-4, you beat them again, sweep the season series, I think you're going to win the division. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes for the Chargers. It's a season full of what ifs and a season full of mistakes, missed opportunities. You name it, they did it. That's how they're sitting here at 4-7. In a season in which the division was wide open. And honestly speaking, just the last 2 weeks to me are a microcosm of this entire season, because you beat the Raiders last week, which you probably should have done. But you beat the Raiders last week. You would have come into this game at 5-5 instead of 4-6. And then you find a way to win this game, which it was there for the taking, especially in the first half. And all of a sudden now, instead of 2 straight losses, you come in riding a 2-game win streak going into that bye. And instead of being 4-7, you're now 6-4, and everything's different. Because at that point, you'd be leading the division. But now, you sit here at 4-7, and or you would have been 6-5, excuse me. Either way, you wouldn't have been leading the division at 6-5. You've been a half game behind the Raiders, who are 6-4. But if you would have beaten the Raiders, I take that back, because then they would have been 5-5, and you would have been 6-5. So you would have been leading the division. So, you know, it's like I said, it's the game of what ifs. But you just haven't been able to pull out these close games this season. And I'm accustomed to that. That's what I'm used to from the Chargers. And today's no different, you know. Different week. Same thing. Phillip Rivers making a costly mistake at the very end. And that's one of many mistakes. So let's get to your comments and get out of here. All right. Niners fan says, it's the same story again. Defense plays well enough to win if Rivers chokes away their playoff hopes. DMV fan 123 says Phillip might only have 1 or 2 more years left in him at best, man. I don't know. I don't know what the Chargers foresee happening. I believe Phillip is on the last year of his deal. Is he? Or is he on the second to last year of his deal? I'm not quite sure. JP says Chargers are done for the year. They were done after they lost last week. I'd already written them off after the loss last week. They needed to beat the Raiders last week, and they didn't. Niners fan says, could the Chargers take Tua this year to replace Rivers? They need to take somebody to replace Rivers. At this point, if it's not next year, or it might be the year after that, whatever the case may be, they need the in-house replacement to be on the roster next year. They need that guy to already be there, and so I think they need to do that this upcoming draft. Niners fan says, Melvin Ingram is damn good. He's a difference maker in this league. Yes, he is. Period. I was talking to my homeboy a couple weeks back when they beat the Packers, and that was his first game back from injury. And I said, man, I forgot, because the Chargers had been struggling up until that point. And he comes back in that game, and I had forgotten what that defense actually looked like with both him and Boza in the lineup. And he quickly reminded me he was a one-man wrecking crew in that football game versus the Packers. And they destroyed that Packers offense. And I said, man, I forgot what this defense looks like when Ingram is healthy. He's a true difference maker. Seriously, he's a really good football player. DMV fan 123 says, the field looked like cupcake icing last year. Yeah, that's why I remember it rained a lot, and they had no answers for, drying the field out. It was a mess. You're absolutely right. J. Moose says, that rush by Clark made Rivers step up in the pocket and threw that timing off on that last interception. Yes, Frank Clark was awesome tonight. He had that stop on a third down that forced a punt on a running play. He forced the interception that went right to Derek Nottie. He hit Rivers as he was trying to throw the football. He pestered and harassed Rivers all night long. He drew a hands to the face penalty, I believe it was him, or a holding penalty that negated a big play by the Chargers. So he was all over the field, man. Frank Clark was definitely proving his weight and his worth, I should say. A lot of people have said that he hasn't necessarily lived up to, the contract. It's early, first year in Kansas City, but this is, and he's been banged up, but this is what they thought they were getting right here. He was dominant tonight. Niners fan says, you were spot on, Lou. Trey Pipkins is absolutely trash. I saw on tape a guy that didn't look like he was prepared to play left tackle in the NFL. And the Chargers had no intentions of playing him right now. So I don't want to kill him because he wasn't supposed to be ready. He wasn't supposed to have to play right now. Their intentions were to, just like the Eagles, they drafted Andre Dillard, had no intentions of playing Andre Dillard. Injuries hit, and he had to get in there. But if Jason Peters stayed healthy, Andre Dillard never sees the field this year. Same thing for Trey Pipkins. If Russell Okung stays healthy, there's no Trey Pipkins on the field this season. They had no intentions of playing him because I don't think they felt like he was ready. Well, he didn't have a choice. He had to get ready. And you're seeing that he's just not ready yet. So I'm not going to kill him, but I didn't like the pick then. Obviously I don't like it. I don't love it now, but that doesn't mean he won't turn out to be a solid NFL pro. Just I didn't like the pick. They needed real tackle help, and they needed earlier than the third round. So that's why I didn't love the pick. JP says, no point in bringing Derwin James back this season. Save him for next season. I agree with that. No reason to rush this man back. Let him go into the offseason fully healthy and allowing him to improve on his craft and get better, instead of rehabbing, So I wouldn't chance it. I'd shut him down. Emperor Meat says, I guess it's one of those years for Rivers where he just throws interceptions all season. By the way, about time you drop more podcast episodes. Love it. Yeah, I told you I was slipping on the pod. And that was about a month ago. But I said I was back like cook crack, and I'm back. And so I'm glad you guys enjoy it, man. I really am glad that you guys enjoy the podcast. JP says, Chiefs defense is the reason why they won this game because that offense started off slow. It's amazing that we're saying that, but the defense really did enough. Like, even in the first half when they were giving up all those yards, they weren't giving up points. They were forcing field goal attempts. They weren't giving up touchdowns. Imagine if those drives ended in touchdowns. This game wouldn't have been close. The Chiefs would have got their asses handed to them. But instead, the defense hunkered down. They never broke in the first half, forced field goals, got a miss, which was a great assist. And then they forced the turnover that led to the points that ultimately got the scoring started for the Chiefs. So they not only did their job, they helped the offense do their job as well. And so credit must be given to a much maligned Chiefs defense tonight for their impact on the game and their contribution to this win. It was definitely massive. And you know what? Well overdue, okay? Well overdue for this Chiefs defense standing up and making some things happen. JP says, man, the Chargers choked again. They need to reload this offseason and fix the damn offensive line. You guys are funny in this comment section, man. Let's see. Reese says, the Chargers are falling apart at the seams, Lou. We should start calling him Jameis Rivers. Hey, man. Y'all stop killing Phillip Rivers, man. Y'all let Philly Rivers live. Y'all know it's almost like that movie that y'all already know how it's going to end. Like, y'all already knew what y'all signed up for, man. You knew when you saw Chargers on the docket tonight, you knew how this thing was going to end. So, like, don't get mad when you pay $8 to sit down for an hour and 37 minutes only to find out that the ending of the movie was exactly what you thought the ending of the movie was going to be. You already knew that. And you knew that before you spent your $8, okay? So don't be mad. You already knew what you signed up for tonight. We knew what we signed up for last week on Thursday. But I must admit, even though you already know how this movie ends, we still show up at the theater to watch it anyway. Every time Phillip Rivers shows up, we still show up and watch. It's like a beautiful car crash. We know it's coming, and we're rubbernecking all the way past the car crash because we want to see every single second of it. That's Phillip Rivers, man. At the end of these ball games, we know a crash is coming, and we want to watch every single second of it. Damn, how did the car end up facing that way? Damn, you see that front bumper? Man, he got hit hard. Damn, I want to know how he managed to hit him all the way back there. Man, we rubbernecking that Phillip Rivers fourth interception, third interception, second interception. You know how this movie goes. You know how it ends. Emperor Meat says, which Alicia Manning year? Remember he threw 27 and 13 and 25 and 10. Hey, I didn't realize he had multiple 20-plus interception seasons. I knew about the 27. I didn't realize he had a 25, too. Yikes. Rivers can't top those numbers, but Jameis is in his way. I didn't realize, and this is why I tell people, Eli Manning has no business in the Hall of Fame, but those 2 Super Bowls, he's getting in the damn Hall of Fame. Those were clutch, all right? And the one in 07 that stopped the Patriots from going undefeated, that's Hall of Fame worthy by itself. Anyway, Niners fan says, is Casey Hayward a top 10 corner in this league? He sure is one of the most consistent ones. I've really liked Casey Hayward. Even going back to his Green Bay Packers days, Hayward was probably a top 10 corner maybe 2-3 years ago. I don't know if he's still that now. But he, like you said, he's consistent and teams rarely go after him. You know, and I think that's more a byproduct of just what's on the other side than just messing around with Casey Hayward. And it's not like teams are throwing away from Casey Hayward. Let's get that straight. It's not like they're afraid to throw his way. They're just like, hey, it's Michael Davis on the other side. Let's go after him, you know? So, but I think he's still a really solid corner in this league for sure. Reese says, is Anthony Lynn's seat getting warm? I don't know. My girlfriend asked me the same question. She's like, is he going to get fired? I'm like, I don't think so. I think Anthony Lynn's pretty safe, but, you know, at some point, you keep losing these games close. I think the reason why we just say, you know, leave Anthony Lynn alone is because we see what Phillip Rivers is doing at the end of these games. We're like, man, Anthony Lynn ain't had shit to do with that. You know what I mean? Like, you feel like he deserves better, but then at the same time, you're like, man, it's still Phillip Rivers. Like, you got to respect it, you know? Because Phillip Rivers is capable of going out next week and throwing 5 touchdowns. I mean, they're off. They have a bye, but, you know, Phillip Rivers is capable of the next game of going out and throwing 5 touchdown passes, no interceptions. So, I said all that to say this. I don't think his seat is – it may be getting warm because there were high expectations this season. Sure, you know, they were 12-4 last year. You're sitting at 4-7 right now. They're not going to make the postseason. Sure, the seat could be getting warm. I don't think it's hot, though. Craig Smith says, 2 weeks, 7 picks, time for Phil to hang them up. Hate to say it. Craig Smith also says 7 losses by 7 points or less. I hate that I love this team so much. We had this conversation before the season started, Craig. You called in. I said, come on, Craig. Get up, Craig. Come on, Craig. I said, look, this is how it's going to go. Y'all are going to be close, but y'all going to lose these close games. Y'all not going to find a way to win. And you said I was being pessimistic, and you said I choose to be optimistic. You were saying that about yourself. And you said, we're going to find a way to win those games. Well, here we are. And I agree, it may be time for Phillip to move on, but I don't think Phillip is ready to move on. So we'll see how that goes. Atlas says, what do you think the main culprit behind Rivers' struggles these last 2 games? Good defense, bad throws, bad decision-making, bad luck. I think it's more of bad decision-making on the part of Phillip Rivers. Some of it is good defense. That Rayshon Jenkins or that Tyrann Mathieu pick, that was a hell of a play. You know, that was a really good play by Tyrann Mathieu. But the rest of those picks, take the Frank Clark one out of the equation. He got hit there. But the other 2, those are egregious. You know, now the one down the field that he threw to the rookie that got picked off by Fenton, he didn't care about that pick. He said to himself, that's like a punt. It was 3rd down and long. He's like, that's like a punt. So I don't really care about that one. But the Sorensen one, that one can't happen. You know, not when you still got a couple of downs left and opportunities. That can't happen. And to take it a step further, Sorensen stinks. I've been saying that for years. And he still gets run. And he's still getting toasted. And they still put him out on the field. And you throw the football right to him, of all guys on that defense? Inexcusable. JP says, Frank Clark is a baller. That is all. Indeed. Reese says, does Phillip Rivers finish his career with the Chargers? I think so. I do. Junior says, 4 interceptions for Rivers, right? Feel bad, but really against the Chiefs defense. I know Chris Jones and Frank Clark are the real deal, but that entire defense stinks. Well, you know, I thought they played really well tonight. You know, Tyrann Mathieu stepped up. I actually thought that Ward had a really strong game tonight, too. I thought there were a number of guys that played well. And I was happy to see that defense actually perform well tonight. Reese says, I'm finally committing myself to your podcast. I used to catch one here and there, but now I've been listening every week. It's great stuff, Lou. I appreciate that, man. Put a lot into those podcasts, so I'm glad that you guys really enjoy them. And I'll make sure that I continue to keep them coming. JP says, how many coaches do you foresee getting fired? it's going to be interesting because what we all assumed that the Falcons coach Dan Quinn was going to get fired. Well, they've won 2 straight and looked damn impressive in doing so. Obviously, the Redskins have a vacancy. I think the Giants could have a vacancy with their coach. So that's 2. They said Adam Gase is safe in New York, and they've won a couple games now in a row. So we'll see what happens with him. But he got the dreaded vote of confidence. I think Matt Nagy's safe. I don't foresee him getting canned this season. Doug, is it Marrone? Doug Marrone in Jacksonville? He could get fired. I could see him getting fired. He barely kept his job after last season, and this season is starting to go south. I could see him getting fired. So that's 3. Trying to go through every division. AFC West, I don't see any moves being made in that division. AFC South, I just said Marrone. I don't think Mike Vrabel is going anywhere, so I think that division is safe. AFC East, that division is safe if Adam Gase doesn't get fired. AFC North, that division is pretty much safe as well because the Bengals stink, but I don't think you're going to see a one and done scenario there. So Freddie Kitchens is intriguing. He has really been bad this year, but I don't think he's getting canned either, but we'll see. That's an iffy one. You put an asterisk next to Freddie Kitchens in Cleveland. He looks in over his head a bit. You go to the NFC. Already said the Redskins, obviously. Jason Garrett is interesting. If they don't win the division, and they have to win the division to make the postseason. If they don't win the division, he could get fired. So put an asterisk next to his name. NFC South, Dan Quinn is interesting. Don't really know what's going to happen there. You put an asterisk next to his name. I think Rivera's good in Carolina, and the other 2 teams are safe. So then you go to the NFC West. You've got everyone's pretty much status quo out there. I don't see any changes being made there. Young coach in Arizona. Kyle got his shit together in San Francisco. Pete's a mainstay in Seattle. And I'm missing a team in that division. Rams, Cardinals, 49ers, Seahawks. No, I'm not. I said them all. All right. And then you've got the NFC North. Matt Patricia, put an asterisk next to his name. I think he's going to get more time, but he's been funky. Never was really buying into him as a head coach. Everybody else in that division is pretty much okay. And Matt Nagy, I'm not going to put an asterisk next to his name. You don't win the division and then stink it up the next year and get fired. I think he's going to get another year. But I put an asterisk next to like 4 different coaches, so you could easily see 5 or 6 vacancies when it's all said and done. Anyway, Reese says, do you have a personal choice for the Redskins head coach yet? Not yet. It won't come until much, much later on in the process. JP says, who on the Chargers coaching staff gets retained or let go come season's end? I don't know. They've already fired their offensive coordinator and promoted from within. I think that you'll see a situation where if their head coach Anthony Lynn is back, then I don't foresee many changes being made. Young Deck says, with 14 picks in 11 games for Rivers, do you think he's done after this year? Oh, you know what? Those stats that I saw might have been from without tonight's game. Hold on. Let's see. Because I said he had 10 picks. But that might have been in just oh no, it's it's 10 picks this season. He's got 10 picks. So, I don't know if he's done. I really don't. I think Phillip still thinks he's got good football left in him. So, I don't think he's done. Craig Smith says, Lou, we didn't account for that half of the roster being out before week 3. We didn't, but you're on par with the Redskins. You're the AFC version of the Redskins, where you just get hurt every year. For whatever reason, you should go into the season assuming that you're not going to be healthy because you don't stay healthy. The Redskins never stay healthy. The Chargers never stay healthy. So, no, we didn't account for it, but to a certain degree, we did. JP says, would you like to see the Skins hire Bruce Arians if he leaves Tampa Bay after this season? There's no reason for BA to leave Tampa Bay to come to the Redskins. He had health issues in Arizona when shit was fine. He didn't want to come to Washington. His health would probably deteriorate in a half a season. I don't see him wanting to come to Washington, but obviously he would be a great addition to the Redskins staff and a hell of a head coach because I think he could get the most out of Dwayne Haskins. But that being said, he's not leaving Tampa. Jordan Jones says, do you see the Chargers offense changing that much in terms of type of plays called, play design, if they do turn to Tyrod Taylor? Yes, they would change a lot of things because Tyrod Taylor is a totally different quarterback than Phillip Rivers. He's not going to turn the football over very much. He's not going to take a lot of risks. That's not his game. He's more of an Alex Smith type of quarterback. He's more of a Teddy Bridgewater type of quarterback. He's going to be a guy that you would be able to do some things in terms of, like, you saw the Chiefs running a lot of RPOs and things of that nature. You'd probably be able to do a lot more of those things with him, some read options. So, yes, you would see a change in some of the things that you're doing with a guy like Tyrod Taylor if he were to get in. But obviously that's not going to happen this year because Phillip Rivers doesn't get injured. And I don't see a situation like in New York last year where you just bench him. If you had a young guy, maybe, but you don't bench him for Tyrod Taylor. So Atlas says, nah, Lou, it's 14 picks, just not updated yet. Okay, I'll take your word for it. 14, then he's definitely getting to 20 this year, if it's 14. As at the top of the show, I said he's going to get to 20, and then I saw that he only had 10. I'm like, nah, he probably won't make it. If he's got 14, he's getting to 20 this year. It's not a matter of if, it's when he gets to 20. And how far over 20 does he go? Reese says, Phillip is having a lot of kids now. If he retires, man, will have nothing else to do. Man, Phillip loved the kids. He loved the kids. Junior says, I strongly dislike Josh McDonald's face and his stupid visor he always wears. Just throwing that out there. Josh McDonald or Josh McDaniels? Anyway. Oh, y'all killing me for not refreshing my stats. I didn't do that. I went on Google. They only gave me 14 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Don't kill me. Don't kill the messenger. I'm just reporting what I see. JP says, last question. Do you foresee any surprises down the stretch as we get closer to the playoffs? Nah, I don't. I think the NFC, I think we talked about this last night, but the NFC playoff picture is pretty much set. I don't see the Rams infiltrating the playoffs. I think that if they did, though, the Vikings would be the odd team out. But, only other team that I could see flip-flopping is the Cowboys not winning the division and the Eagles getting the division. But outside of that, I don't see too much changing in the NFC playoff picture. And in the AFC, you're really looking at two spots, 3 teams for 2 spots to me. Now, obviously, there are plenty of teams. The Steelers, the Titans. I'm missing a team that's 5-5. It's like 3 teams that are 5-5, and they're right there. But I just don't see all those teams continuing to play solid football. I see the Texans are going to make the postseason, I believe, whether they win the division or get a wild card. The team that doesn't win that division, I think, is going to get in as well. whether that's Indy or Houston. I don't think Tennessee is going to factor into it when it's all said and done. And then you got that one spot essentially with the Raiders and the Bills. And I feel like the Bills are going to keep the Raiders from getting in to the postseason if they don't win the AFC West, which I don't think they are going to do this season. Craig Smith says, Lynn wants a mobile quarterback. Deep down, he's hoping Phil retires. You know what? I think no one ever wants to push a future Hall of Famer out the door. No one ever wants to do that. But in this particular situation, they may have to do that if he doesn't want to just bow out gracefully. But I'd love to see what the offense looked like with a guy that didn't turn it over. You may not have the excitement, and you may not, that was the complaint of Chiefs fans for years with Alex Smith. Like, come playoff time when we play against better teams, we're not going to be able to do enough to win. That was always a knock on Tyrod Taylor as well. When he won with Buffalo, it wasn't going to be enough in the playoffs, and it wasn't. But I'd love to see that defense with a quarterback that's not going to put them in tough spots, that's not going to turn it over. I'd like to think that the the Chargers win some more games with a caretaker of the football like a Tyrod Taylor. Not saying, I'm just saying. Young Deck says, with Phillip Rivers on the last year of his deal, I'm calling him going to the Bears in the offseason to replace Mitchell. We'll see. I think there are a lot of options, and I talked about this on the podcast. I did not include Philly Rivers because I thought he had one more year left, but he would be a guy you would add to that mix of probably the greatest free agency class of quarterbacks we've ever seen in this league's history. If Phillip Rivers is also a part of that group, that would make things pretty damn interesting as well. But I think there's some other options that if you're a team like the Chargers, I would much rather have Marcus Mariota as my quarterback next year than Tyrod Taylor or Jameis Winston, for instance. I'd much rather have a Marcus Mariota as my starting quarterback. And I think Mariota just needs a change of scenery. I really do. I think the guy is still talented and can make plays. So we'll see what happens. We got all offseason to discuss the whereabouts and the future destinations of all these guys that have a chance to be moved. So in any event, Chargers fall to 4-7 with the 24-17 loss over in Mexico City at the hands of the Kansas City Chiefs, who now move to 7-4 on the season. Both of these teams will hit their bye week this week, and Chiefs potentially will be deadlocked in first place by the time they come off their bye with a massive showdown with the Raiders in week number 13 when they come off the bye. So it will be very, very interesting to see what takes place. Do the Raiders beat the Jets, get to 7-4? CBS has already flexed that game from a 1 o'clock game to now a 4:25 game. So they're putting a lot of hype on that Raiders-Chiefs game. And so looking forward to seeing that game a couple weeks from now. And that's, I think, going to really determine or go a long way in determining who's going to win the AFC West division. I still got my money on the Kansas City Chiefs. Anyway, I'm your man, Louie T. Signing off. Remember, if it's not your man T, it's not the best NFL coverage it could be. Until next time, I'm your man, Louie T. I'm getting out of here. Make sure you like this video. Subscribe to the Louie T Network if you haven't already done so. And make sure you share the video if at all possible. And everybody's been giving me a plug tonight, so why not plug it my damn self? Check out the Louie T Network podcast if you haven't already done so. Lots of great content there. Love your guys' feedback. Make sure you rate the podcast. If you're checking it out, whatever platform you're checking it out on, rate the podcast. Give me a review. That also helps me in the standings on those specific platforms. But once again, I am out of here. Thank you guys for joining me tonight. You guys enjoy the rest of your evening. I will see you next time. Take care.